Hey guys, it's MMA Vulture coming at you live with UFC Macau, Jan versus Figueiredo, weigh-in recap, as well as my final predictions for this week's bouts. And let's go ahead and jump right into it with the first bout of the night being Maheshate versus Nikolas Motta. And I am on the surging prospect, the 24-year-old Maheshate. I am sticking with him. I think that he gets it done here against Nikolas Motta, who is no slouch. I mean, he's got devastating knockout power, but he fails to put himself in the best positions to use it to his best abilities. He's very inconsistent in getting knocked out, getting a knockout, getting knocked out, getting a knockout. He's chinny, he has a knockout power, but again, he's just not the best with selecting his shots and finding those precise knockouts. He just isn't. He lost to Jim Miller, who knocked him out, then knocked out Van Camp, then got knocked out by Manuel Torres, which isn't the greatest look, seeing as Manuel Torres did get knocked out recently. So, I mean, Nikolas Motta, yes, has the knockout power, has pretty quick hands. He's got clean, quick combinations. So on the feet, it's going to be fairly interesting, but I just think that Hayasada is more technical, more precise. He's a lot calmer and more calculated in the ring over Nikolas Motta. Not only that, like I said, Motta has that chinny issue. He's gotten knocked out multiple times. I get that Hayasada has gotten knocked out by Borishev, but again, take that with a grain of salt. Borishev is all right, and Hayasada just got caught, to be completely honest, which happens to all of them. In which Hayasada took a split decision over Gabriel Benitez and looked phenomenal doing so. I think Hayasada gets it done against Nikolas Motta, to be completely honest. I think that he's craftier than Nikolas Motta. I think he's slicker on the feet than Nikolas Motta. I think he's going to have success. I really do. I think that he's going to pick apart Nikolas Motta. I think that he's going to overwhelm him. And I think that he's going to land a devastating knockout shot. I really do. I don't see this fight going the distance, to be completely honest. After rewatching some tape and really looking back into this, I think Hayasada could end Nikolas Motta. I really do. I think he can land that knockout shot. I have Hayasada by knockout. He has a 1-inch reach advantage as well as a 4-inch height advantage. I think that he gets it done here. And let's look at the weigh-in photos here, in which we have Nikolas Motta first on the left. As you can see, looks healthy. He looks jacked. He looks lean. He looks good. He made weight. And let's go ahead and look at Hayasada on the scale right below him. Looks healthy. He looks jacked. He looks more muscular than last time he came in. So definitely something to note there. I think Hayasada looks phenomenal. And let's go ahead and look at the face-off here. As you guys can see on the right, Nikolas Motta and Hayasada, you can see Hayasada definitely taller than him, definitely lengthier than him. But Motta looks thick. He does. He definitely looks thicker than Hayasada. I think this is going to be a great matchup between these two. And I think Hayasada lands a knockout shot over Nikolas Motta. I think Nikolas Motta is chinny, and I think Hayasada is very good at putting himself in places to use his power to his best abilities and will find that knockout shot on Nikolas Motta. I think that his footwork is phenomenal. His head movement's phenomenal. I think we're going to see a crafty 24-year-old in Hayasada land that knockout shot on Nikolas Motta. And let's go ahead and look at the odds on this fight, in which Hayasada sitting at a -185, Nikolas Motta sitting at a +160. I like Hayasada. I really do see him ending it early against Nikolas Motta. I think that he's got the devastating knockout power. He's got the stiff, quick jab to maintain distance between him and Nikolas Motta. I think he's going to use both of those, and I think he lands the knockout shot with his crafty footwork and his precise striking. Give me Hayasada to beat Nikolas Motta, and I think round-wise, over 1.5 sitting at a -150, under 1.5 sitting at a +120, over 2.5 sitting at a +135, under 2.5 sitting at a -175. If I'm going to touch anything on this rounds, which I would be cautious with, like I said, both sides have devastating knockout power, and I think that somebody's going to end somebody early, and I think it's going to be Hayasada landing the knockout shot on Motta. So I'm going to go under 2.5, sitting at a -175. Give me Hayasada under 2.5 to knock out Nikolas Motta. And let's go ahead and run it up to the next fight on this card in Long Xiao versus Quang Bang Lei. And I am going with Long Xiao over Quang Bang Lei. I think Long Xiao is going to have a grappling advantage. I think in terms of striking, it's going to be fairly close. I think Quang Bang has the knockout power over Long Xiao. I think Long Xiao still has knockout power, but I think Quang Lei has a little bit harder punches. I think that Long Xiao has the grappling advantage. I think he's going to be able to take down Quang Lang Bei. I think that he has strong takedowns. I think that he's going to mix in those takedowns with his striking. I think Long Xiao has a good stiff jab. He has quick, clean combinations. I think that he's going to use that here against Quang Bang. I really do. I think that he's going to kind of maintain that distance with his striking. If he has any trouble on the feet, he will resort to that grappling ability of his and will be able to take down Quang, be able to maintain control, be able to advance positions, and be able to maybe even submit him. But I think Long Xiao gets this done by decision. I think it's going to be a very tough and hard-fought battle between these two, in which I give Quang Bang a slight edge in the striking department, but I think Long Xiao will still be able to fare well in that department and be able to resort to his grappling if he needs to, and be able to control and keep Quang Lei on the ground and land some nice ground and pound. I'm going with Long Xiao via decision. I think he gets it done here. And let's go ahead and look at the weigh-in photos here. And we have Quang Lei here on the right. He looks good. He looks jacked. He looks healthy. He doesn't look as lean as he normally does. It looks like it was a little bit harder of a weight cut this time, but still made weight, still looks good. And we're going to see how that affects him in the fight. And let's go ahead and look at Long Xiao. As you guys can see here on the left, looks like an absolute fucking savage. Absolutely shredded, jacked, and just looks like an army. Looks like a fucking troop. Like, he is absolutely jacked and stacked. Let's go ahead and look at the face-offs here between Long Xiao and Quang Lei. As soon as I can get up there. And as you guys can see, they're the same height. This is going to be a very interesting one. I really do think that Long Xiao uses the grappling ability of his if he has any trouble in the striking. I think it's going to be fairly close in the striking department. I think Quang has a slight edge over him, but I think that he could use that grappling ability of his if he has any trouble on the feet. And let's look at the odds here, in which Quang Lei sitting at a plus 129, Long Xiao sitting at a negative 149. I like Long Xiao. I think that he has a grappling advantage. I think in terms of striking, it's fairly close on the feet. I think that he's very good at maintaining distance, kind of keeping his opponent at bay. I think that if Quang tries to blitz, you could see Long Xiao shoot for a takedown and land some takedown and garner some control time. Over 1.5 for this fight sitting at a negative 400. Under 1.5 sitting at a plus 275. Over 2.5 sitting at a negative 220. Under 2.5 sitting at a plus 165. I like the overs in this. I think that this hits the scorecards, and I think that Long Xiao beats Quang Lei in a tough fought battle, 29-28, Long Xiao. And let's go ahead and run it to the next fight, which is an absolute banger in Loner Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa. And I am sticking with my boy Loner Kavanagh over Jose Ochoa, though I will say Jose Ochoa is no slouch. I mean, he's a very good kickboxer. He's fighting out of Shootbox Diego Lima with the likes of Charles Oliveira and a lot of other crafty veterans that are very, very highly skilled. So this kid is definitely a surging prospect that a lot of people are going to be looking out for. And this is a very, very good fight for him, to be completely honest. These are two highly touted prospects that are going to put on an absolute show right here, in which we saw Loner Kavanagh going out there against a prospect previously and absolutely putting on a devastating knockout performance. Like, devastating knockout. I gotta ride with my boy Loner Kavanagh. I think that he has the X factor that Jose Ochoa doesn't. He has lethal knockout power, like absolutely deadly knockout power. He is slick on the feet. His head movement is very good. He's very good at moving his head. He's very good at entering and exiting the pocket. I think that Loner Kavanagh beats Jose Ochoa, and I think he does it in dominant fashion. I really do. I think that he knocks out Jose Ochoa. I think that he's too slick on the feet. Not only that, he has a high fight IQ, so he's very good in transitions. He's very good in a fight in general. He's just very, very good. I gotta give it to Loner Kavanagh. I do want to say Jose Ochoa is no slouch. Like, he's still in this fight. Many people think that he is not in this fight. He is still in this fight. I just think that as this fight goes on, we're going to see Loner Kavanagh pick him apart, overwhelm him, be the better striker, use also any grappling ability of his if he needs to, and just dominate this fight, to be completely honest. I really think that in every aspect he's better, but I'm not saying Jose Ochoa is a bum, because he's not. He's very skilled. It's just Loner Kavanagh is next, and I think that he's very highly skilled with a very high fight IQ, and will end this in devastating fashion. Give me Loner Kavanagh to beat Jose Ochoa. And let's go ahead and look at the photos here, the weigh-in photos. As you guys can see, we have Loner Kavanagh here on the right. He looks good. He looks happy. He looks healthy. And then we have him here on the left pointing up to the sky. He looks jacked. He made weight. He looks good on the scale. And then we have Jose Ochoa. Let's go ahead and go down. We have Jose Ochoa right here. He looks good. He looks absolutely jacked as well and lean as fuck. So he definitely is coming into this fight in phenomenal shape. I think that this is going to be one of the better fights on this card for sure. So definitely keep this fight in mind and definitely tune into this fight, because this is going to be an absolute banger in which I think Loner Kavanagh gets a devastating knockout. But I think that it's going to be very back and forth battle until that happens, to be completely honest. And let's look at Loner Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa face-off. As you guys can see on the right, you can see Jose Ochoa is 3 inches taller than him. So he has a height advantage as well as a reach advantage. So Jose Ochoa has a couple advantages on his side, but he's going up against a very highly skilled and up-and-coming prospect in Loner Kavanagh, who I just think that is going to be too much for him. I really do. Loner Kavanagh looks thicker than him. Yes, Jose Ochoa is taller and stuff, but doesn't have that thickness that Kavanagh got. And let's go ahead and look at the odds here, in which Kavanagh is sitting at a -370. Jose Ochoa is sitting at a +295. Obviously, the odds are definitely a little bit wide, I would say. I think that they should be a little bit closer. But I gotta say, I think Loner Kavanagh will get this done. I think that he beats Jose Ochoa. I think he's slicker, more technical on the feet. I think he's got that devastating knockout power. I think that he's got also that fight IQ. He's got a lot of things that just really propel him in the sense that he's going to be a great up-and-coming prospect with phenomenal abilities and just crafty striking and grappling work. I really do think that Loner Kavanagh is going to be next up, and I think that he's going to show it here against Jose Ochoa, who a lot of people think that Jose Ochoa could get it done here. Over 1.5 sitting at a -210. Under 1.5 sitting at a +170. I think that this goes under 2.5. I think that that's the money call if you can find that. I think that Loner Kavanagh ends Jose Ochoa. I really do. I think that he knocks him the fuck out. And let's go ahead and run it to the next fight on this card. And Carlos Hernandez versus Tumendemberel. And I am going with Carlos Hernandez. I think that Nyamjargal, though coming off of the road to UFC and looking good and dominant, he didn't look good in the Topney fight where it was a split decision where it could have gone either way, and many people thought Topney won that. So definitely don't feel like Nyamjargal is fully ready for the UFC, especially going up against the likes of Carlos Hernandez, who, yes, isn't the highest of caliber in terms of UFC, but I mean, he's been going up against absolutely dominant fighters in the sense of Roy Tusaida, and then you have Tatsuro Taida, 14-0, 9-0, so absolute dogs he's going up against. And then you give him somebody like Nyamjargal, who really hasn't been tested in the UFC against real UFC caliber fighters. And I gotta go with Carlos Hernandez. I'm not completely sold on Nyamjargal yet. This is the fight that will sell me on him. I think that Carlos Hernandez is crafty. I think that he's going to be able to get it done here against Nyamjargal. I think that in terms of striking, it's going to lean towards Carlos Hernandez. I think that he's slicker on the feet. I think that he's got quicker, cleaner combinations. I think that in the grappling department, I want to say Nyamjargal has trickier submissions. Faster transitions also. I think that Carlos Hernandez will still be able to fare well in the grappling department. I think that in the striking department, I think that he's going to find success in picking apart Nyamjargal on the feet. I think that we could see Carlos Hernandez take a very close decision over Nyamjargal in 29-28 fashion. I think that this is going to be a very back and forth battle where Carlos Hernandez just gets the better of the young up-and-coming prospect in Nyamjargal. And let's go ahead and look at the weigh-in photos here in Nyamjargal versus Carlos Hernandez. And you got Nyamjargal here on the right. He looks good. That tattoo looks sick with the tiger and the skeleton in the middle. Absolute sick tattoo. He looks jacked. He looks healthy. He looks lean. He looks ready. He made weight. I'm excited for this fight against him and Carlos Hernandez. And let's go ahead and look at Carlos Hernandez here, in which we have Carlos Hernandez here on the left. He doesn't have the best look, but again, he always looks like this, and he still finds a way to win in his fights. He looks good. He looks healthy. He made weight. I'm excited for this fight between him and Nyamjargal. I really think that Carlos Hernandez is going to get it done. He's been up against the highest caliber fighters in the UFC in Tatsu Taida and Rei Tatsuro. I think that he could get it done here against Nyamjargal, who really hasn't been up against the best UFC competition as of lately. And as you guys can see, Nyamjargal and Hernandez on the left. Nyamjargal looks taller. This is going to be an interesting one. Hernandez looks a little bit thicker than Nyamjargal. I think that this is going to be a very, very interesting one. Very, very close brawl back and forth. But I think that it's Carlos Hernandez that really gets the better of Nyamjargal. I'm going to be completely honest. And the odds on this sitting at plus 143 for Nyamjargal. Carlos Hernandez sitting at a negative 163. I got to give it to Carlos Hernandez. I think that he beats Nyamjargal. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 285. Under 1.5 sitting at a plus 210. Over 2.5 sitting at a negative 162 to negative 165. Under 2.5 sitting at a plus 132 to plus 125. I like the overs in this fight. I think that this goes to decision. I think that it's going to be a very back and forth battle, a very close brawl where Carlos Hernandez just gets the better of Nyamjargal, who just hasn't been up against the likes of the best in the UFC is what I'm trying to say. He hasn't been up against UFC caliber, and I think that this is his true test. And I think that Carlos Hernandez is just going to be a little bit too much for him, and I think Carlos Hernandez gets the 29-28 decision. And let's run it up to the next fights on this card, which are the Road to UFC Championship fights. And let's run it with the first one in Zhao Feng versus Ming Xing. And I am going with Feng over Ming Xing. I think that in terms of skills, she is a very highly skilled striker with devastating knockout power. Not only that, she's very quick, clean in her combinations. She's got a huge reach advantage, 6-inch reach advantage, 5-inch height advantage. I think that Zhao Feng could knock out Ming Xing. I really do. I think that how I see this fight going is Zhao Feng landing and picking apart Ming Xing, kind of putting on a pace that Ming Xing can't really handle and can't really keep up with. And I think as this fight goes on, it's going to be Feng taking over and looking a lot better than Ming Xing, who just hasn't been up against the best opponents and just hasn't looked the best as of lately. To be completely honest, I think that Feng shows much better skill in her striking. She's a lot more technical. Her footwork looks clean. She's very quick with her combinations. She's got the high, snappy, and low kicks. I think that Feng is a much better striker. I think in terms of grappling, I think it's going to be fairly close on the ground. But I think Feng, even on the ground, has quicker transitions, and I think that she's going to shine here against Ming Xing. I really do. I think that this is going to be a dominant performance for Feng, in which she beats the crap out of Ming Xing on the ground and in the striking department. And let's go ahead and look at the weigh-in photos here for these two. In which we have Feng here first. She looks good on the scales. I mean, she looks healthy. She looks jacked. She's got that armpit hair to give her that extra knockout power. You know what I mean? She looks good on the scales. And let's go ahead and look at Ming Xing on the scales. Oh, that is too funny. And Ming Xing, as you guys can see here on the right, she looks good. She looks happy. She looks healthy. She looks more filled out than Feng. I will say that. She looks more filled out. She honestly reminds me of my gym coach. My gym coach in middle school. She reminds me of my gym coach in middle school, to be completely honest. My PE coach. That's hilarious. And let's go ahead and look at the face-offs here between these two. Feng will beat Ming Xing. I think it's going to be a very, very good fight. As you guys can see here on the right, you can see Feng is a lot taller than Ming Xing. She also has a huge reach advantage. I think that she's going to be able to maintain distance, keep Ming Xing at bay, pick her apart from the outside, use those kicks to also keep her at bay and maintain that distance. I think Feng has a clear-cut striking advantage. I think in terms of grappling, it's going to be fairly close, but I think that she's still going to be able to fare well in the grappling department. And I think that she's going to get it done here against Ming Xing, and I think it's going to be in brutal fashion. I think she's going to get it done for sure. And let's look at the odds here, in which we have Feng sitting at a negative 430. Ming Xing sitting at a plus 330. Very wide odds, in which I think Feng definitely will beat Ming Xing. I think that she has the obvious striking advantage. I think she's going to maintain distance, keep Ming Xing at bay, outstrike her, outwork her, pick her apart from the outside, and beat the crap out of her. I think even in the grappling exchanges, I think that Feng will find success and be able to land some takedowns of her own. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 700. Over 2.5 sitting at a negative 400. I think this goes over. I don't see this fight ending early. I think Feng gets the better of Ming Xing, and I think that it's going to be 30-27. I really do think that she's all around better. And let's go ahead and move it to the next Road to UFC Tournament Championship in Kira Sahota versus DongHun Choi, in which I am going with DongHun Choi over Kira Sahota. Though Sahota has a massive reach advantage and a massive height advantage, I gotta go with DongHun Choi. I think that he's going to be able to beat Kira Sato. I think that Kira Sato kind of lacks in that red zone, in like the very close up zone. I think that DongHun Choi is going to be able to enter and exit the pocket with ease. I think that he's going to turn this into a dirty brawl type of fight where he's going to be able to land some knees, elbows. I think that DongHun Choi is better in the dirty inside boxing area. I think that he could land some takedowns. I also see him outstriking Kira Sato. I think that in the sense that he's going to be able to enter and exit the pocket. I get that Kira Sato is very good at maintaining distance and kind of keeping his opponent at bay. I just don't see him being able to do that with DongHun Choi, who's super good at entering and exiting the pocket with his head movement, his footwork. He uses it all to be able to enter and exit the pocket against his opponents and find those shots that are just there and be able to chin his opponent. I really think that DongHun Choi will be able to put on a pace that Kira Sahota will ultimately not be able to keep up with will struggle to kind of keep that same speed, whereas DongHun Choi will be able to land and keep that speed and explosiveness throughout the fight and beat Kira Sahota. Give me DongHun Choi over Kira Sato. And let's look at the weigh-in photos here, in which we have DongHun Choi here on the left with that sick-ass sleeve. Looks good. He looks happy. He looks healthy. He looks jacked. He made weight. He looks good on the scales. And let's go ahead and look at Kira Sahato on the scales. Kira Sahato's here on the right. He looks healthy. He looks lean. He looks happy. I mean, it looks good, man. Kira Sato definitely has a huge height and reach advantage and looks good on the scales, but I think that DongHun Choi will be able to turn this into a chaotic type of brawl fight where he thrives, be able to kind of enter and exit the pocket, land some nice elbows, knees as well in the pocket. I think that his dirty inside boxing is better than Kira Sato. And let's look at the face-offs, in which here on the left you can see Sahato definitely taller, definitely has that huge reach advantage. Definitely skinnier though, not as thick as DongHun Choi, who kind of looks like a younger brother or a young boy compared to Sahato, who looks like a man compared to the child boy DongHun Choi. And let's go ahead and look at the odds here, in which DongHun Choi sitting at a plus 100 and Sahato sitting at a negative 120. I think Sahato is definitely very live. I mean, he has a huge reach and height advantage, but I think DongHun Choi is better. I really think that he's going to be able to enter and exit the pocket. I think he's quicker. I think he's more explosive. I think that Sahato kind of lacks in that red zone, that close-up, dirty inside boxing area. I think that DongHun Choi needs to make this into a brawl and land some, mix in some level changes and find success in the level changes and take him down, maintain control, and beat him. I really do think that this is going to be a close one in which DongHun Choi finds a way to beat Sahato in a very close brawl. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 425, under 1.5 sitting at a plus 285, over 2.5 sitting at a negative 205, under 2.5 sitting at a plus 165. I think this goes over. I think that this hits the cards, and I think DongHun Choi takes a close 29-28 decision. I think that he uses his grappling abilities. I think that he also enters and exits the pocket and turns it into a kind of dirty fight where he uses his elbows and knees and gets the better of Sahato. I really do. And let's go ahead and move it along to the next tournament series in this road to UFC, in Su Young Yu versus Balgian Jensuli. And I am going with Balgian Jensuli over Su Young Yo. I am sticking with that. I think that Young Yu doesn't bring enough of a striking threat. Yes, he has good grappling abilities. He's good at taking you down. He's good at maintaining control. He's got tricky submissions. I mean, he's good in that sense, but I think he's a little bit overrated, to be completely honest. I think that he has decent takedown defense. I think that he also has decent striking. I think that, again, he doesn't bring enough of that striking threat to really worry about his to really focus on that striking and not worry about his takedowns. I think Balgian has phenomenal striking. I think that he's good at mixing up his combinations, mixing it up to the head and to the body. I think that he's going to have the striking advantage for sure. I think that he's going to land the quicker, cleaner combinations. I think he's more explosive, quicker on the feet. I think he's got better footwork. I think in terms of grappling, it's going to be fairly close. I think that Young Yo definitely has a grappling advantage, but I think Balgi and Jensuli will still be able to fare well in the grappling exchanges and do even better in the striking exchanges and get the better of Su Young Yo. I really do. I'm going with Balgi and Jensuli over Young Yu. And let's look at the weigh-in photos here, in which we have Balgi and Jensuli here on the left and right. He looks good. He looks jacked. He looks healthy on the scales. He really does. He looks phenomenal on the scales here. He made weight and looked good. And let's look at Su Young Yu on the scales. As we try and find Su Young Yu here on the left He looks good. He looks filled out. He looks jacked. He looks healthy. He's smiling. He's ready to go to war with Balgian Jensuli. And let's look at the face-offs here between Balgian and Su Young Yu. I think Balgian gets the better of Su Young Yu. I think he's got the striking advantage. And I think that he finds success in the grappling exchanges as well. And as you guys can see, I passed it. But Balgian, Jensuli on the right, and then Su Young Yo as well on the right. They look both healthy. They look jacked. The intense stare down between these two. I think it's going to be an absolute war between these two. I think that this could be one of the better fights as well on this card. I really do. And let's look at the odds here, in which Balgian Jensuli sitting at a plus 145, Su Young Yu sitting at a negative 170. I like Balgian Jensuli. He is one of my underdog picks of this week. I really do like Jensuli. I think that, again, striking advantage. I think it's going to be a tough fought brawl between these two, which I think it does hit the cards, to be completely honest. I think it's going to be a back and forth battle in which I think Jensuli gets the better of the overhyped Su Young Yu. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 325. Over 2.5 sitting at a negative 205. I think this fight goes over. I think it hits the cards. I think Jensuli gets the better of the overrated Young Yu in a 29-28 decision. And let's go ahead and move it along to the main card opener in Ozzy Diaz versus Ming Yang Zhang. And there's no changing this one for me. I am sticking with Ming Zhang. He is my lock of the week. I think that he's going to absolutely knock out Ozzy Diaz, to be completely honest. Ozzy Diaz is coming in this after getting knocked out in his debut to Joe Pyfer, now moving up in weight class, going up against an absolute savage in Ming Zhang, who is very technical, very, very precise with his striking, has devastating knockout power, knows how to pick apart his opponents and end them in devastating fashion. As you guys can see, knockout, 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 knockout. He is a fucking beast, and I don't think anything's going to change here. Add another knockout to his resume, because that's exactly what's going to happen here against Ozzy Diaz. Ozzy Diaz is not ready for UFC. He is not UFC caliber. He's coming into this fight against somebody who is just super highly skilled, who is on the come up, and I just think that Ming Yang Zhang is going to be way too much for Ozzy Diaz, and it's going to end absolutely brutally for Ozzy Diaz. And let's go ahead and look at the weigh-in photos here. As you guys can see, we have Ozzy Diaz here on the right and left. He looks good. I mean, he looks healthy. He looks jacked. He looks good for the weight class, but I just don't see him beating Ming Yang Zhang. I see this ending absolutely brutally, to be completely honest. This is going to be bad for him. As you guys can see on the right, Ming Yang Zhang looks good. He looks happy. He looks healthy. He looks jacked. He looks good on the scale, is smiling. I think that this is going to end so brutally. And let's look at the odds here, in which we have Ming Yang Zhang sitting at a negative 320. Ozzy Diaz sitting at a plus 270. I like Ming Yang Zhang sitting at a negative 320. Over 1.5 sitting at a plus 180. Under 1.5 sitting at a negative 220. Over 2.5 sitting at a plus 350. Under 2.5 sitting at a negative 550. I like the over or under 2.5, not over. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Under 2.5. I even like the under 1.5. I really think that Ming Yang Zhang starches Ozzy Diaz and knocks him the fuck out early. And the knockout sitting at a negative 160 for Ming Yang Zhang. I think that this ends early, and I think Zhang knocks him out, sitting at a negative 160. And let's run it up to the next fight on the main card in Volkan Oezdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. This is a phenomenal fight here, in which I'm sticking with Carlos Ulberg. I gotta go with Carlos Ulberg. Volkan Oezdemir has never fought somebody with such phenomenal footwork and as much speed and explosiveness as Carlos Ulberg. I really feel like Carlos Ulberg will be able to beat Volkan Oezdemir. I think that he's got better footwork. I think that he's more technical in the striking. I also think that he's got better head movement. I think that speed and explosiveness is going to be the factor here, and I think Carlos Ulberg is going to knock out Volkan Oezdemir, to be completely honest. I think that we could see Carlos Ulberg kind of push the pace, kind of put a pressure on Volkan Oezdemir early in this fight, kind of look for that counter striking of, look for that counter shot on Volkan Oezdemir, and I think that he could land it. I really do. Also, he has the grappling to fall back on if he has any trouble. Carlos Ulberg has good grappling abilities with strong takedowns. He maintains control of you. I mean, he's phenomenal in every aspect of the fight. I really think that Carlos Ulberg will beat Volkan Oezdemir, who is no slouch. I mean, Volkan Oezdemir has been up there with the best of them. He beat Johnny Walker viciously, beat Bogdan Guskov via submission, beat Paul Craig. I mean, he's looked good in all of his fights. Yes, he has a few losses to Nikita Krylov, who's a dog, then Magomed Ankalaev, who's fighting for the belt next. I mean, Volkan Oezdemir is no slouch, nobody to look past. I just think that Carlos Ulberg is up next, and I think that he's going to find the counter-striking, counter shot on Volkan Oezdemir. And let's look at the weigh-in photos here, in which we have, let's go ahead and look at it, Volkan Oezdemir, whoever comes first. Where are they? Volkan Oezdemir here on the left. He looks good. He looks healthy. He looks lean. This is going to be an absolute war between him and Carlos Ulberg. I think that this is going to end brutally for somebody. I think that this fight definitely doesn't hit the cards, and I think somebody's getting knocked out, and I think that it's going to be Volkan Oezdemir. I think Carlos Ulberg lands that brutal counter shot. And as we see here, we got Carlos Ulberg on the left, Volkan Oezdemir on the right. Both look jacked, both look healthy, both look in good shape, both made weight. So this is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal brawl between these two, which I think it ends devastatingly. And let's look at the face-off, in which we have right here Ming Yang Zhang, Carlos Ulberg, and Volkan Oezdemir. I don't know why I said Ming Yang Zhang. I saw that picture at the bottom left. I was about to start talking about them again. Now we have Carlos Ulberg, who looks slightly taller than Volkan Oezdemir, looks thicker than Oezdemir. I think this is going to be an absolute brawl in which Carlos Ulberg gets the brutal knockout over Oezdemir. Carlos Ulberg sitting at a negative 240. Volkan Oezdemir sitting at a plus 205. I think Carlos Ulberg gets the better of Oezdemir. I think he picks him apart, puts a pressure on him, overwhelming pressure on him, and puts on a pace that he just can't keep up with, finds the counter shot, and knocks him out. Give me Carlos Ulberg. I like the under 2.5 sitting at a negative 150, as well as the under 1.5 sitting at a plus 155. I think this is going to be fireworks, and I think that it ends early. I really do. I think Carlos Ulberg finds a knockout shot on Volkan Oezdemir. And let's move along to the next bout on this card, which is a banger in Wang versus Gabriella Fernandes. And I am going with Wang. Obviously, she is a absolute savage with devastating knockout power. She is on the come up. She is surging, and she is 6-0. And I just don't see Gabriella Fernandes being the person to take that O away from Wang. I mean, Gabriella Fernandes lost to Jasmine Jasdavicius, lost to Therese Bleeda, but also barely won in some of these fights. Barely won in her last fight against Carly Judas, is what I'm trying to say, via split decision, and didn't even look the best. I think that Wang is going to wipe the floor with Gabriella Fernandes, to be completely honest. I think that she has the striking advantage. I think she's got the grappling advantage. I think in every aspect she's better than Gabriella Fernandes, and I think that Wang ends Gabriella Fernandes in brutal fashion. I think she knocks her out. And let's look at the weigh-in photos here, in which we have Gabriella Fernandes first here on the left. She looks good. She looks jacked. She looks healthy on the scales. She made weight. She looks lean as well. And let's look at Wang on the scales. Wang here on the left looks good. She looks jacked. She's pointing to her bicep. She's about to get the knockout, man. She is about to knock out Gabriella Fernandes for sure. She's got that X factor. She's got that devastating knockout power. She got the footwork to put herself in the best places to use that knockout power. I gotta go with Wang, the surging up and coming prospect. And as you guys can see, we got Wang here against Gabriella Fernandes with her normal Joker face, throwing the guns up, shooting Gabriella Fernandes because she knows she's going to absolutely murder her this Saturday. She is going to beat the shit out of her. I got Wang in devastating fashion. And let's look at the odds here, in which Wang sitting at a negative 900, not even any value in the money line. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 325, under 1.5 sitting at a plus 230, over 2.5 sitting at a negative 185, under 2.5 sitting at a plus 155. I think Wang ends this early. I like the under 2.5. I think that Gabriella is a tough opponent, but I think as this fight goes on, she's going to slow down. You're going to start seeing Wang fully take over, even though she's got the striking advantage and is easily better. I think that Wang could land that knockout shot. And the knockout for Wang sitting at a plus 225, I see it live. I really do. I think Wang ends this devastatingly. I think that Gabriella Fernandes is not the person to take her O. I think Wang is too skilled and much better in every aspect than Gabriella Fernandes. And I think that she brutalizes her and ends her devastatingly. Give me Wang over Gabriella Fernandes, as well as the under 2.5 sitting at a plus 155. And let's go ahead and run it up to the next fight on the main card in Kenan Song versus Muslim Salikhov. And in this one, I am going with Muslim Salikhov. I think that this is going to be an interesting fight between these two. Obviously, Muslim Salikhov, 40 years old. He's coming off of that win against Ponzinibbio in split decision. He looked good in every aspect, striking, grappling. I think that this is going to be an interesting fight against Kenan Song, who does have some knockout power and is very good at striking. I mean, Kenan Song has good striking. He's got good grappling. He's got good takedown defense. I got to go with Muslim Salikhov, though. I think that in terms of striking, I think that Muslim Salikhov will be able to pick him apart. I think that Kenan Song sometimes gets a little bit wild and overzealous. I get that. So does Salikhov at times. He does get a little bit overzealous as well. I think that these two have similar holes in their game in the sense that they overextend and kind of leave themselves to getting clipped. Though I think that Salikhov will be better on the ground and in the grappling department. I think that he is a good striker, a good grappler. I think that this is going to be a very close-fought battle between these two, a very back-and-forth battle, very tit-for-tat type of fight is what I'm trying to say, in which I think Muslim Salikhov gets a close decision, 29-28. I think that this hits the cards, and I think that it's going to be very close, in which Salikhov walks away with a close decision. And let's look at the odds here, or the weigh-in photos here for these two. As you guys see, we have Kenan Song here on the right. Looks good. He looks jacked. He looks healthy. He looks lean. He looks ready to go to war against Muslim Salikhov, the 40-year-old. And let's go ahead and look at Muslim Salikhov on here. As soon as we can find Muslim Salikhov. Where is Muslim Salikhov? There he is. Muslim Salikhov here on the right. He looks good. I mean, his hair is growing. What do you mean he's 40 years old? He looks like he's 35. What are we doing? Nah, he looks good. He looks jacked. He looks lean. He looks good. This is going to be an interesting fight, to be completely honest. I believe that it's going to be back and forth. I really think that Kenan Song loses this to Muslim Salikhov. And let's look at the odds here, in which Kenan Song actually sitting at a plus 165. Muslim Salikhov sitting at a negative 190. I'm going to be completely honest. If you're on the Kenan Song side, I wouldn't bash you because I think that he is live to hit, to be completely honest. I think that this is going to be a very tit-for-tat close fight between these two. I'm going with Salikhov because I think that he's going to pull off the W. I think it's going to be very close, but I think that he's tough, durable, and will outlast and outwork Kenan and get the W. But I think Kenan Song is definitely live. And the over 1.5 sitting at a negative 300, under 1.5 sitting at a plus 220, over 2.5 sitting at a negative 155, under 2.5 sitting at plus 125. I think this goes over. I think this hits the cards. I think that Muslim Salikhov gets the 29-28 decision over Kenan Song. I think that is going to be very close, tit for tat type of fight, but I think Muslim Salikhov walks away with the W. And let's go ahead and run it to the co-main event, and I'm excited for this matchup. Xiaonan Yan versus Tabatha Ricci. And hell yeah, I'm going with Tabatha Ricci over Xiaonan Yan. Yes, Xiaonan Yan has phenomenal striking, has that knockout power. I believe Tabatha Ricci will be able to fare well in the striking department. She has been consistently getting better with her striking and boxing work. I think that she's going to fare well in that department. I think she has a clear-cut grappling advantage. I think she's faster in the transition. She's got solid takedowns. She's got phenomenal takedown defense. Not only that, she's got tricky submissions, and I think that we could see Tabatha Ricci maybe even submit Xiaonan Yan. I get that it's a very, very scary thing to say, in the sense that Xiaonan Yan has good takedown defense. She has, I'll say, decent takedown defense. She's all right in the grappling department. I think Tabatha Ricci has a clear-cut grappling advantage. I think in terms of striking, I'm going to give Xiaonan Yan the power advantage. I think in terms of striking, it's fairly close, but I got to give Xiaonan Yan a slight striking advantage as well. But I think that, again, Tabatha Ricci will beat Xiaonan Yan. I think that she's going to be able to mix in her level changes with the striking and be able to land the takedowns and find success in garnering time on Xiaonan Yan. I really do. I think Tabatha Ricci beats Xiaonan Yan, and I think it's going to be a great, great fight between these ladies. And let's look at the weigh-in photos between these two, in which we have Tabatha Ricci here on the right. She looks good. She made weight. She's smiling. It's going to be an absolute war between her and Xiaonan Yan. It really is. And then we got Xiaonan Yan here on the bottom. Looks healthy. Looks jacked. She looks lean. I mean, she looks good for this fight. I'm going to be completely honest. She looks phenomenal. And let's look at the face-off between these two. As you guys can see, we got the face-off here on the left. Tabatha Ricci and Xiaonan Yan. Xiaonan Yan, as you can see, is a little bit taller. I believe Ricci is a little bit thicker. I think that this is going to be a great fight between these two, in which Tabatha Ricci gets the better of Xiaonan Yan. I really do. I think she's got the clear-cut grappling advantage. And let's look at the odds here on this fight, in which Xiaonan Yan sitting at a negative 180, Tabatha Ricci sitting at a plus 155. I like Tabatha Ricci, that plus money, that dog pick of the week. I really think that Tabatha Ricci is going to get it done. I really think that she is one of the more likely dogs to hit this week. I think she's got the skills to beat Xiaonan Yan. I think she's got a clear-cut grappling advantage. I think in terms of striking, she has been progressively getting better and has been looking solid in the striking. I think that she has the skills and will get it done. Over 1.5 sitting at a negative 750. Over 2.5 sitting at a negative 450. I think this goes over. I think Ricci gets the better of Xiaonan Yan. But something I do want to mention, obviously for the D-gens out there, I think that Tabatha Ricci could possibly get a submission. Although I am going with her to win via decision, I do think that there is a world where Tabatha Ricci takes this down to the ground because of the fact that she has a clear-cut grappling advantage, advances positions, and we could see Xiaonan Yan make a fatal mistake, and Tabatha Ricci exploits that and locks her in a submission. I really do think that there is a world where Tabatha Ricci could get a submission, and that is sitting at a plus 825, which is insane to me because I think that she has a clear-cut grappling advantage and will be able to... And what I'm trying to say is also she has faster transitions. She just looks a lot better in the grappling exchanges than Xiaonan Yan does, and I think it's wild that it's at plus 825. Although I am going with Tabatha Ricci to win this via decision. I think that she gets it done and beats Xiaonan Yan. And let's go ahead and move it to the main event. In Petr Yan versus Deiveson Figueiredo. And if you guys haven't, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button before we jump into this one. I am sticking with Petr Yan over Deiveson Figueiredo. I think Petr Yan will get the better of Deiveson Figueiredo. I think that striking-wise, he has a striking advantage. I also think he has a cardio advantage. I think as this fight goes on, it's going to favor Petr Yan. We're going to see Deiveson Figueiredo get slower, start to drain, and start to just not look like his normal self and not be as explosive and quick on the feet. I think Petr Yan will get the better of Deiveson Figueiredo. I think he'll pick him apart, overwhelm him, put on a pace that he won't be able to keep up with the whole 5 rounds, and just beat him. I really think that Petr Yan will also use some grappling exchanges in the later half of this fight, in the sense as Deiveson Figueiredo gets more drained and tired. I think that Petr Yan we could see him go for level changes, mix in takedowns, and find success. I really do favor Petr Yan as this fight goes on. And let's go ahead and look at the weigh-in photos here for these two, in which we have Deiveson Figueiredo all the way at the bottom right here. Deiveson Figueiredo looking good on the scales. He made weight. He looks healthy. He looks ready to go to war against Petr Yan. And then we got Petr Yan here looking good on the scales as well. Throwing up the fist, looking jacked, looking lean, looking healthy on the scales. This is going to be an absolute war between these two, in which I think Petr Yan gets the better of Deiveson Figueiredo. He's going to put on a pace that Deiveson Figueiredo just can't keep up with, and outwork, outperform, and beat him via decision. Give me a Petr Yan. And let's look at the face-offs here, in which Petr Yan and Deiveson Figueiredo, absolute intense face-off here. As you can see, Deiveson Figueiredo's staring him in the eyes. I think that Petr Yan is going to be too much for him. I think that as this fight goes on, like I said, Petr Yan gets the better of him and starts looking like the obvious better fighter. And let's look at the odds here, in which Petr Yan sitting at a -300, Deiveson Figueiredo sitting at a +250. I like Petr Yan. I think he gets the better of Deiveson Figueiredo. I think that striking-wise, he has the striking advantage. I think that he has a much cleaner boxing stance. He keeps that high guard. I think that he's going to be a lot more precise and selective with his shots. I think that Petr Yan finds the striking on Deiveson Figueiredo early. I also feel as though this fight goes on, as this fight goes on longer, Petr Yan will start to get better and start to actively put on more punches on Deiveson Figueiredo that he won't be able to keep up with, because he's going to get tired and drained. I like the overs in this fight. Over 2.5 sitting at a -400. Over 3.5 sitting at a -250. I think this goes the distance, and I think Petr Yan gets the better of Deiveson Figueiredo. And if you guys haven't, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!